I'll give you 5 brownie points if you can guess my favourite colour. Absolutely sweating in here. I've lit a candle, so basically I'm a real YouTuber now. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I feel like it's been so long since I last filmed a video. I hope everyone had an amazing Christmas. As you can see, I've got a new little setup for my videos. I normally film my videos in Cammie's garage downstairs, but because it's a garage, it's like as cold as the outside is, and it's snowing today, so the garage is absolutely freezing, and if I sat in there to film this video I probably would have caught hypothermia. So yeah, I've got this new little setup. Let me know if you prefer this. I feel like I do. It's so much cuter. It's more like me because it's all pink and white. So let me know if you prefer this little setup, and I will keep filming my videos here in future. I've not even told you what today's video is going to be. You can probably tell by the title, but today I'm going to do a little story time. So quite a lot of people have asked about the story of what happened to me when I was younger with my hips and stuff. So I'm going to explain all of that today. I've actually got some notes. It's literally double-sided. I got my mum to give me like a timeline of events of everything that happened because I was so young, like I don't really remember. So I feel like this is going to be a pretty long video, so apologies in advance. Right. Let's just start at the beginning. So, if I keep looking down, it's because I'm looking at these notes to keep myself right with like dates and how old I was and stuff like that. So, my mum's put here, September 1997, I was born. My birthday is 28th of September 1997. She said, when I was born, obviously babies get a full body check over just to make sure everything's okay. They checked my hips, checked my spine. Everything was fine. Discharged as every normal baby would. Then about a year later, in August 1998, so I was just coming up for 1, I went to a private nursery when I was younger, and my mum said that the teachers or whoever looked after you at nursery, whenever they would put me down, like lie me down a certain way, that I would scream in pain, like proper scream in pain. So my mum took me to the doctors where I lived. Doctors looked me over, and my mum's put here that the doctor actually told her she was just a paranoid first-time mother and she shouldn't be wasting the doctor's time. So obviously that shocked my mum a little bit, but she was like, fine, okay, you're a doctor, you know what you're talking about. She's fine. She was obviously just in a bad mood when they put her down, and that's why she was crying. Whatever. And then she said when she took me to get my first pair of shoes, the girl who was fitting my shoes said that I looked like I was walking funny, like I was kind of walking with a limp. I wasn't walking like how other babies my age would walk. My mum's not actually put down how old I was at this point. I mentioned her concerns to like various members of our family, so like my grandma, my granny, like other like motherly figures in the family, and everyone said that my mum was just being stupid and she was just trying to look for problems that weren't there. And again, the whole you're just a paranoid first time mum was brought up, and she was kind of like shot down. So this is where it all sort of started, shall we say. So September of 1999, I was 2 years old, and I was having my regular 2-year checkup with like the health visitor person that you get checkups with, I think. And my mum mentioned to her that like everything that she'd noticed in the past, and that she had a few concerns. So the health visitor checked me over and said that like I don't really know how to explain this, but like a crease in my bum cheek, my right bum cheek. So like it didn't look normal. It wasn't like round like how babies' bums normally are. Like, there was like a crease in the middle. So she said that it would need to be checked over by a paediatric doctor. And she would make an appointment for a few weeks' time to get checked. This like set alarm bells going in my mum's head, and she was like, nah, I know there's something wrong. This woman's just pointed something out as well, so I'm going to take you straight to A&E. So that's what she done. She drove me straight to the sick kids A&E and demanded that they x-rayed me. They said to my mum that they weren't going to x-ray a healthy child. Again, she was just being paranoid, blah blah blah, but my mum insisted that I was getting an x-ray. So finally, I think they just gave in. And then after that, I think they obviously got some like nurses or doctors or whatever to check over the x-rays, and then the doctor pulled my mum into a little room and basically said they couldn't believe that no one had picked up on this before now, and I have probably been in excruciating pain since I was born, and that my hip was dislocated. There wasn't an event to make it dislocate, if that makes sense. It was either like during labour when I was being born, or it's always been like that, but no one picked up on it. So I learned how to walk with a dislocated hip. I was crawling with a dislocated hip. People were picking me up, putting me down, putting me in car seats, like putting me in like baby high chairs and everything. Because I was obviously, they think, born like that, the pain to me was normal. So I just like always thought that excruciating pain was a normal thing. So I just got on with it. Like, the way they explained it to me when I was younger is, so your hip is a ball and socket joint. So basically you've got the top of your thigh bone, which sits inside of your hip. So most people, like, their bone sits inside of the socket like this and like moves, because so you can like walk and stuff. But mine wasn't like that. My actual hip socket wasn't round, it was flat. So my hip bone was just like not supported at all. So yeah, doctors were shocked obviously that no one had picked up on this. So was my mum. She obviously was a bit devastated because she kind of knew from when I was probably about one, I think, yeah, about 1 year old, that there was something not quite right, and she took me to doctors, but no one ever picked up on it, which, I mean, it's not great, is it? I was actually told by my surgeon and stuff that I could have like took loads of legal action and I could have sued quite a few people and places when I turned 18, but I just never really could be bothered with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is what it is. I'm totally fine now. Maybe if I had like lasting effects, I probably would have looked at getting some like legal support or whatever, but who knows. Anyway, so the story doesn't stop there. We're only just getting started. That was this September when I got the x-rays. Literally a month later, I went back into hospital for an operation. So in this operation, I don't know how the hell they'd done this or were going to do this. They were going to try and round my socket back round, I guess, if that makes any sense, so that my hip would fit back inside. This was when doctors and nurses and things told my mum and dad that like I couldn't not have this operation, if that makes sense. Like, I couldn't go on the way I was. It would have caused like so much long-term damage, probably like with my spine and stuff like that, and my pelvis, and like I couldn't be left how I was. The only option was to do this surgery to try and put my hip back in, but the doctors like warned my mum and dad that even though they were doing the surgery, they were going to try and fix my hip, that if the surgery went well, I would probably never be able to run, like, in my life. Like, running, not an option. If I could walk, it would probably not be normal, so I'd probably have some sort of limp, or like walk funny, or I just like wouldn't learn how to re-walk, or I might spend my life in a wheelchair, depending on how this initial surgery goes. October 1999, went into the hospital for the operation. The operation actually went well. They managed to fix the joint. I don't know what they done. They done something. They fixed it. It was fine. It went well. And when I came out, I was put into a hip something. S-P-I-C-A. Hip spica? Who knows? So that's basically a full body cast, pretty much. So from here down to my toes, I was in a full body cast. It was purple because that was my mum's favourite colour, but I had to be like lying flat on my back. My legs were bent and like turned out, so kind of like a frog position, if that makes any sense, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. So I was lying back with my hips turned out and my knees bent, kind of like a frog. And I had to be like that for 3 months to let my hip set. I was only in the hospital for a week, and then I got to go home. She used to get really funny looks when she would take me out and about because I was obviously stuck in a full body cast. Like, if she went to Tesco, she couldn't just put me in the normal little seat bit in the trolley. Like, she'd have to put me in the big bit. Like, I was just kind of like a big object. So on about the 20th of December, I was just in for a regular checkup. I still had my cast on at this point. And the doctor said that the operation had went well, everything was looking good, so he wanted to take my cast off me for Christmas. That day I had my cast taken off. I was to stay in hospital for a few days after just to make sure everything was alright. After a few days, I seemed to be in like a lot of pain, like I was screaming in pain, crying all the time. So on Christmas Eve, so December the 24th, they took me for an x-ray and discovered that my hip had fell out the socket again. So yeah, it was basically the doctor and nurse's fault. My surgeon was apparently furious at all the doctors and nurses because he had told the doctors to tell my mum and dad and the nurses that yeah, he was going to take my cast off on Christmas, before Christmas, but I had to still be like lying in that frog position for a few more days just to make sure everything was fine. But no one told my mum and dad this, so they were picking me up out of my bed, taking me to the playroom, like sitting me down. So I think it was one of the times when my mum or dad like had picked me up, my hip just fell back out and it had dislocated. On Christmas Eve of 1999, I was rushed in for emergency surgery. I think it was a bit worse this time than it was before. There wasn't enough time to give me magic cream, so when you're younger and you're in the hospital, I don't know if you will have had it, but they put like numbing cream on your hand, they call it magic cream, so that when you get the anaesthetic to put you to sleep, like you don't feel it. And I was so used to getting this magic cream every time now, because even like sometimes when I'd have to go for x-rays, they'd have to put me to sleep just because they'd have to move my hips about and stuff. So I was used to the magic cream and I knew that's what happened, but apparently this time, because I was going for emergency surgery, like I had to go then and there wasn't enough time. So it says here that my mum and 3 nurses had to pin me down on the operating table and stop me from like screaming and kicking and hitting everyone while they put the anaesthetic in. My mum said like it was one of the most traumatic days of her life, like physically holding me down on this table and like trying to stop me from screaming while they put the cream in my hand to rush me in for surgery. And I've got this like, I don't know, this is probably going to sound so stupid, but I've got this memory in my head, right? I don't know if it's from this day or if I've just made this up because I had so much like trauma in hospitals when I was younger, but I've got like this like image or dream in my head of when I was younger being on like a cold operating table and seeing loads of like instruments next to me, if that makes sense. So like saws and like metal tools and stuff, and like I remember hearing a drill noise, and I don't know if it's from like that anaesthetic going in and because they were rushing me in so much that I wasn't fully asleep like when they took me into the operating theatre, if that makes sense, or if I've just like dreamed this. But it's like such a horrific like image in my head of like the noise of a drill and just like me like being forced on this like table. I had that surgery went well as well. I came out with another full body cast on. This time it was for 4 months, so a month longer. So from here down to my toes I was in a full cast again. I was in a hospital for a week, and at this point it was confirmed that I would probably never walk properly and I will never be able to run in my life, and the likelihood of a wheelchair was very possible. My mum's put a little like additional info bit on here. So of March of 2000, so a couple months after that operation, I also still had my cast on at this point, my mum's put here that I had a very, very severe infection in my back because of the nappy and things I had to use. Like my pee had leaked through my cast and pretty much just soaked up in my cast. So I went to Sick Kids to get it removed and get a new one put on, but because I had such a bad infection I was quite unwell. So I was in hospital for a week again while I got treated with antibiotics and stuff for the infection. At the time she was heavily pregnant with my little brother, and like I had such anxiety and PTSD from being in the hospital that I refused to be left on my own. So my mum was like heavily pregnant with my brother, and I made her sleep with me every night in the hospital on the floor of the ward. She had to sleep next to me on like a little thin mattress thing next to my bed in the hospital because I refused to be left alone. She said here that I always had to have someone with me 24/7, even going to the toilet, because I hated the hospital. There was like a few more operations and stuff in between all of that. Also, I won't go into full detail. That was like the main events that happened. However, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, my hip started like really hurting, and like they had noticed that my right leg, so the leg that had all the issues, was longer than my left leg. Maybe like a couple of inches, maybe like this much. This leg was longer than this leg. So I started walking really funny and it was really painful. So I had to go to this special like place that made up like special insoles and stuff for my shoes so that I could walk normally. And I remember it used to be so embarrassing, like, you know, at primary school when like you're outside in the playground, you have your normal shoes on, and then when you come in you swap into like your classroom shoes. I don't know if everyone does that, but at my school they did. So I'd always have to get brought in from the playground early so that I had time to like take my special insoles out my shoes, put them in my other shoes. Like it was just like so embarrassing, like I was just always singled out. They decided like that's not really like a long-term solution. So they decided that they were going to have to do another quite major operation. This time it involved making this leg the same length as this leg. My right thigh bone, they cut the bone in half, cut like a chunk about this big off of my thigh bone, took it out, and then put the bits of bone back together with like a metal plate and loads of screws, if that makes sense. So like a pretty major operation. Wheelchair for about a month after that operation. Like this operation like took me so long to learn how to walk again, like oh. So I was in the wheelchair first, and then like I had a Zimmer frame, so you know like the little things that you like bend over that grannies have, like some grannies have, that like help you walk. I had a little purple one of them, and then eventually I was onto crutches, learned how to walk again, had loads of physio, it was fine. And then exactly a year later I had to go back in for an operation on that leg again to have all of the pins and screws removed, because after a year the bone had like grew back together, if that makes sense, like fixed itself. So they took all the screws and stuff out again. I was in a wheelchair, I had to do the Zimmer frame thing again, then eventually on crutches. Like the weirdest thing is like all the doctors and everything telling me that I'd never be able to walk again and all of this and blah blah blah. I was doing gymnastics, like loads of sports, like I could run, I could walk as normal. Like the doctors were all like so shocked at how much I could do, like how good my progress was and like my recovery, because they expected me to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but here I am running about, walking about as normal, like doing gymnastics. Mum says that she remembers like in my ward there was loads of other kids that had the same issue, and like when they would come in for their checkups and stuff, like she'd be talking to their parents, and all these other kids would like have long-term like damage, like all these kids couldn't walk properly, or they were all running about with like crutches, and like some of them proper walked like weird, and my mum was always like, how's Emma like not got that? She had the exact same issues as all these other kids. Like she was so thankful that I like came through it all with physio and stuff. So, and I specifically remember, I think it was my last checkup with my surgeon before he retired, I went in to his office, sat down, and my mum was like, show him what you can do. And I remember like dropping into the splits, because like I'd been doing gymnastics and everything, like I'd done the splits, and he was just like amazed, like it was unreal, like seeing how happy he was because his surgeries had like obviously worked, and here I am, like a pretty much a normal child, being able to do the splits and everything. Now I still get some pain in my hip, like see if I stand for too long or if I walk about for too long, I'll start getting like shooting pains down my leg, which is probably a little bit concerning, but we'll just skip over that. And I do get like loads of lower back pain. I can do everything. I can run. I actually ran a 10k once. I can squat like 100 kg. I can still do the splits. I can still like get my leg behind my head, everything like that. So yeah, my surgeon was actually amazing. Like, he managed to fix me. What we have realised now is that my joints suck. Pretty much. Like, my joints are just not stable at all. In the future, they've told me that I probably 100% will need a hip replacement at some point in my life. It's not great, but it is what it is. And also, like, giving birth in the future, if I ever decide to have kids, like, I'll probably need to have a C-section because of when you give birth, like the way your pelvis moves and stuff, and like all the like relaxing, like the hormones and stuff that are released when you're pregnant loosen your joints even more. So they said that I'm probably going to have to just get a C-section, or when I'm giving birth or leading up to giving birth, my hip might just pop out again, which would not be ideal when you're heavily pregnant. So looks like it's going to be a C-section for me, but that's fine. I don't mind. I'll just add that to my collection of scars. Just quickly go over like another like incident that happened to do with my joints. This one I can probably talk about a bit more because I remember this, like I know what happened, and like it was quite recent, whereas like all my hip stuff I was a baby, so like I don't really remember what happened. I just like have these scars and have like some vague memories of like being tortured in a hospital. But yeah, so I have dislocated this elbow 3 or 4 times. I'll talk you through the stories because some of them are quite funny, and it just like shows again that my joints are just absolutely useless. So the first time I dislocated my elbow was probably the most horrific and traumatic. I was 14 and I was at cheerleading. It was a Sunday. I like remember this so well. So I was 14 years old, I was at cheerleading. I was actually at like a tumbling class. So tumbling and cheerleading is like the gymnastics part of cheerleading, so like backflips and like all that fun stuff that you do on the floor in gymnastics. Like basically I jumped too high, like got a fright and like fell backwards and thought, oh, this is giving me shivers just thinking about it. Like thought it would be a good idea to put my hands behind me to catch my fall. But like I kind of went squint, so all my weight went on this arm when I fell, and like I fell straight on this arm, and my elbow just like snapped the wrong way. Oh, like I can actually feel the pain when I talk about it. Oh, it freaks me out so much. So yeah, I remember just like lying there with my arm like by my side, like screaming in pain while they phone an ambulance. I remember like touching my arm with this hand, like right here, and being like, where's my elbow? Like I couldn't, like, you know, you've got like that pointy bony bit of your elbow. Like I remember lying there and being like, where's my elbow? And the like paramedics were like, don't panic, like we think you've dislocated your elbow. Like, so I went to the hospital, I had dislocated my elbow. If I can find a picture of the x-ray, because I think I've got one somewhere, I'll pop it on screen at some point. But pretty much like you've got 2 bones here in the bottom of your arm and you've got 1 bone at the top. So they had like moved over each other, so this bone was like down at my forearm pretty much, if that makes sense. And it was like, so when I got to the hospital, they put me to sleep straight away. They like reset it. So I think what they do is they have someone that holds your shoulder and then the doctor that grabs your hand, and then they just like pull your arm straight, if that makes sense, and like pop all the bones back to where they should be. So they done that. Obviously I was asleep, so I don't remember any of this. And then I had like a cast from like here, like from my wrist up to here. So my arm was stuck like this for like a good few weeks. Like had to have loads of physio obviously to build the strength back up in my arm. Fast forward maybe like a year and a half. So I must have been about 15 or 16. At this point my elbow's totally healed. I'm actually at a house party with some of my friends drinking. I'm not encouraging underage drinking at all. I'm pretty sure we were at Kay's sister's house. I think she was actually on holiday and Kay had like broke into her house so that we could have a house party at hers while her sister was on holiday. So sorry Amy about that. Anyway, so me being the bloody show off that I am, decide to have a handstand competition with one of the boys in our group. I think we both done gymnastics, so like we were both good at handstands, so we were in this handstand for ages. Like ages and ages, and my arms start getting tired. So I think that it's a smart idea to start doing one-handed handstands. So I'm here and I'm like on this hand, like holding this one-handed handstand, like cool, whatever, like everyone look at me. And then I swap hands, and as soon as I lift this hand up, this elbow just crumbles and like snaps again, just like in a heap on the floor, like smash my head off the wall and everything. Like a little bit tipsy, so like I remember the pain this time like not being as bad. So like I was able to like talk to my friends and be like someone phone my mum, like get my mum here ASAP, like this is not good. So they phone my mum comes down, like gets me in the car and is like, right, I'll just drive you to A&E, it's probably going to be quicker than phoning an ambulance to like this underage drinking party scenario. So she takes me straight to the hospital, take me straight in, put me to sleep, pop my elbow back in. We're all good. I've got my cast back on, my little like full arm cast. And then I think I get that cast off maybe 5 or 6 weeks later. Do the physio again. 2 or 3 months after I get my cast off, I'm allowed to go back to cheerleading. And this specific day, I'm at cheerleading. My normal cheerleading coach is on holiday, so there's a substitute coach in coaching us. She wasn't aware that I was not allowed to do anything. Like I was allowed to come to class, but I had to sit in the corner and not do anything because obviously my elbow issues. So she gets the whole class up to start doing their backflips, and I'm like, oh, I can backflip, I'm going to join in. Yeah, I'm fine. Arm's totally fine, I can backflip. Like, let's do it. So we get ready, the like assistant, like the substitute coach is like, right, 3, 2, 1, like everyone backflip. I throw my backflip, and as soon as my hand hits the ground, pop. My elbow pops out of place for the 3rd time, and this time I'm screaming. This time I'm at like the leisure centre, so I think they call in all like the lifeguards and like everyone with like first aid, and they're all like assessing me, like phoning my mum, phoning an ambulance. My mum comes straight down, storms in, and is going through me, like shouting and screaming at me, and all the leisure attendants are like, what the hell's going on? This girl has clearly seriously hurt herself and her mother is screaming at her. My mum had literally said to me as I left the door, do not do anything at cheerleading, and I was like, of course I won't. And here I am for the 3rd time with my elbow out of place. So she's going through me. The leisure attendant's like you need to calm down, we need to phone her an ambulance, like stop shouting at her. My mum's like, it's her fault, like she was told not to do anything, blah blah blah. So my mum refuses to let them phone an ambulance. She makes me get up, like hold my arm that's out of place. Bless her, I love my mum, she's not nasty at all, and I did deserve this, but she makes me get up, walk to the car with my elbow like out of place. I'm sure I had like a pillow or something that was on in the car, so I'm like this, like screaming in pain. She drives me to the hospital. She's going over every fucking speed bump. She's not slowing down at all. Like, oh, that was the worst car journey of my life. We get to the hospital. She doesn't drop me off at A&E, like at the doors. No, she goes and parks away in the car park. If anyone's been to like Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, like the car park is quite far away from A&E. So she goes away, parks the car, goes and gets a parking ticket, like puts it on the car. I'm still here like screaming like, mum, hurry up, like I'm in agony. Makes me stroll along from the car park into A&E, and as soon as I get to A&E I'm just like done. Like they take me straight in, like knock me out, pop my elbow back in, probably establish like my elbow's fucked at this point. So they decide that they're going to have to operate, or it's just going to keep dislocating and keep dislocating. Like it'll probably get to the point where I pick something up and my elbow just dislocates, because at this point it's just so weak from all the trauma that it's had. So again, this was quite another like major surgery. By this point I'm quite used to it, so I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever, like fix my elbow. But what they were going to do, because all like the ligaments and stuff in this elbow had been like so damaged and like they just weren't holding my joint together anymore, if that makes sense. Yeah, they were going to take a ligament out of my knee and put it in my elbow. But apparently the ligament in your knee, like you don't really need it. I mean, I guess you need it because it's there, but like you can cope without it, if that makes sense. So the plan was take this ligament out my knee, open up my elbow, and then like sew the ligament onto like my elbow joint to stop it popping out. Surgery went well, but like I was in so much pain after that operation. I don't know what it was. I think they kept me in for like 2 or 3 days after that because I was just like in agony. And because I had surgery on my knee and on my arm, like I was some sight after. So like I obviously couldn't walk because I just had surgery on my knee, and this arm was in a sling and I couldn't walk on this leg. So I could only have one crutch in this hand, but I only had one leg that worked and one arm that worked. So I was just like hobbling about everywhere for weeks. Again, if I've got pictures, I'm sure I've got pictures of me like at cheerleading with my cast on, like doing stuff. So I'll insert pictures about the screen if I can find any. Cracks every time I straighten it, which is disgusting. Like I can feel it, it's horrible. It hurts all the time, like I'm not gonna lie, it does. I can't lean on it for very long. Like if I do a plank, oh, it's so sore. Anytime I train triceps, so like anything that involves like straightening my arms is agony. Like, you know, overhead tricep press, like it hurts me so much. Press ups are really difficult, like chest press again, really difficult. Like also like a little bit of bone floating about in here as well, because one of the times I dislocated it, the bones chipped as well. So there's just bits of bones floating about in there. They said that they could like do another surgery to remove the bits of bone, but can't be bothered going for another surgery, so we'll just leave the little bits of bone in there, just swimming around doing what they're doing. Yeah, that's 2 stories of my joints failing me. I will show you my scars. Do you want to see my scars? Is that weird? Should I show you them? Ignore my tattoo. I got it in Magaluf when I was like 17, so we'll just not talk about that. But the first scar, I don't know if you can see this on camera, goes from here all the way down here. Can you see like that crease? And it like keeps going. That scar is quite like a neat one, like you can't really see it, like it's a really thin like white scar. Very noticeable. I used to be so self-conscious of this scar when I was like younger, like at PE in high school and gymnastics when I was younger. I used to always like wear long shorts so that I could hide my scar, but now I honestly couldn't care less about it. Can you see it? Can you see it? It's like massive. So it starts here and it goes all the way down to here. A big massive one. So that was the one when they took part of my bone out and put the pins in and stuff. And my elbow one is quite disgusting. It looks worse because of fake tan, I feel, but I always wear fake tan, so can you see it? So like here down to like about there. You can probably see it more if I bend my arm. See it? This one up here. And then the one like to match that is the one on my knee. So this is quite a little scar. Like you can't really see it that much, but it's like here. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was quite a long one, but yeah, I just thought I'd tell the story because so many people ask like what happened, and people see my scar and are like, oh my god, what happened, like did you get bit by a shark? And like I wish I could tell people that yeah, I was in like a shark attack, but nah. Please subscribe to my channel if you could, that would be amazing. I think I'm quite close to 200 subscribers now, so that's good. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if you've had any like big surgeries or incidents or anything. I love like hearing about stuff like that. Is that weird? Like I love like medical stuff. Fun fact, I actually wanted to be a paramedic before I became a PT. Yeah, so like this video if you enjoyed. I've actually got such an exciting video planned for like next week with Cami. I think yous are going to love it. Like it'll be such a fun video. I'm so excited to film that. But I thought I would just chuck this in here just for you to have a little watch when you're all off on your festive holidays and stuff. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I will see you in the next one. Have a good new year everyone.